Shannon Symonds, and I'm making a series of videos because I'm at 65, and so now I can say whatever I want, right? Because not working, writing books. I write books with whatever I want in it. And I am at that end where I can look back at the beginning and see full circle kind of where it's taken me. And I said last time a little bit about like going to church and getting your feelings hurt when you're newly divorced or things are coming apart in your life. And I think that happens to a lot of people. We've been talking a lot about, why people stop going to church. And our prophet was just talking about it at BYU. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you are, man, this is for you. He said, ask your questions, dig deep into the doctrine, study it. You've got something you want to know, get online and watch Jasmine Rapley, or follow him with Hank Smith and John By the Way, or get somebody who does know, or study and ask. Some people, though, and me at one point in my life, we get our feelings hurt. People say some pretty rough things when your life is not going the way it should. And sadly, a lot of times it's at church, the one place where it should be, come on in, we know you're having a bad year. We're here for you. And man, I remember when my kids did that. Come sit by me because my kids are okay now and your kids will be too. Or I'll be with you no matter what happens. That is the one place where Christ-like love comes in. And I still can't figure out how we can worship Jesus and then kind of say things to each other in judgment. It just doesn't fit. So at this point in time, that was happening. And somebody who had some responsibility said something to me that was so awful, it literally made my bishop cry. Like, it was terrible. And that was it. I was just like, I can't do it. I can't go. I would just sit there and cry and cry and cry. I wanted to be there. I needed to be there. But I would send my kids with my folks, and I would just sit at home and cry because it was so harsh. It was really harsh. And I'm going to tell you what happened. So after that, I got a phone call. A friend of mine and I had decided that sometimes with divorces, there is allegations and things are happening. And we were speaking and ran some like grassroots newsletter and made a little conference because, we felt like our community needed to do a better job of caring for women and children if there was suspected abuse. And I was working in a Head Start, and I think I was there at the time. I was going to school to work there. And I was nobody, but we really wanted people to be kinder to each other when things were going south. And she was speaking in like a speaker's bureau, and one day I got a call from a man named Presiding Bishop Pace. That means that he was the bishop over all of our church all over the world, and that he had spoken to her, and they were looking at the church's policy around caring for church members in cases like mine. And you don't need the details, it's not important. And so that was in the day of landlines, and I had a 10-foot cord, thankfully, but my kids could go farther than 10 feet away from me. But he kept me on the phone for an hour and a half, and he asked my story, and he listened to it end to end to end. And he asked great questions. And then he asked if I would come in and speak to a group of people and share my story. And if it would have helped, I would do it. So I gathered up all of my awful story, all the pictures, journal, all the stuff. I gathered it all up and went into the church headquarters. And I ended up in a room with President Faust, who I loved all of his life. I loved him before this and after this especially. Russell M. Nelson, who later became a prophet, and he was an apostle at the time, and so was Faust. And then Sister Jax, who was all heart, just all heart. She was so sweet. And I laid out this awful story. It took like an hour of questions and going through it and asking me what would have helped, what did help, who was there for you, like the bishop that cried. What can we as an organization do to support people like you when those things happen? They were great questions. And President Nelson, man, he's intense. He grilled me. He wanted to know, was I sincere? And I was. And when we got done, I think President Faust and Sister Jax were left in the room, and I can't remember if President Nelson was there. But President Faust was in a chair, like a wheelchair, I think. And he leaned over and he said, Shannon, why aren't you going to church right now? And I told him what happened. And he told me, he said, that is not right. What that other person did was not okay. And then that person who had some authority or power, his position was changed a little bit later, like really quick. And I felt the abundance of President Faust's love. I will love him this life and the next for that question, for asking me and telling me it's not okay. And I decided that after that, by golly, this was between me and my Savior. If my Savior cared enough about me, who is nobody, to get me in to the leaders of our church in the world to tell my story, and the end result is he just says, please come back. This was wrong. Then I'm going back, and I'm never leaving again. I don't care who says what, because he needs people there that say things like me. I love you. It's okay. We can get through this together. And so got my kids dressed for church, got myself dressed for church, and we had a new church building, and they were going to dedicate it that morning. So, of course, we were 5 minutes late, right? And I walked in the doors, and they were just about to give the dedicatory prayers. I told the kids to wait, and we're in the lobby. There is a story in one of our scriptures about a great and spacious building. And this great and spacious building is sort of supposed to be the house of Satan, where there's adultery and drugs and all of this stuff. And it's the world. It's a representation of the world that calls to us, that wants us to get engaged. It's a representation of Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know how else to say it. It's his island. That's what it is. It's like calling to people and tempting people. And the Lord wants us to stay on this straight and narrow path of the scriptures. That's a very, everybody in our church knows that story, right? The great and spacious building. If you go to Thanksgiving Point in Utah, you can see one that they've built that's just, it's got the Savior, the tree of life, and that building, and it's powerful. So I walk in, me and the kids are in the lobby. The man that hurt me the most is the one, well, not the most, he and his other person, but is the one that is giving the dedicatory prayer. Here I am again, in a place where somebody else has impacted my life, and I've decided, you're not doing it. I'm not letting you do it. And so he begins, and he says, Dear Lord, because remember, this is a new church, we thank you for this great and spacious building. Not kidding you. And I just started to laugh. And there's titters in the congregation, like, oh my gosh, does he realize what he just said? And I realized that this very human man that probably thought he was doing the right thing and is just trying as hard as I can to get through life, I had let him take charge of my relationship with the Savior in church and with others. And I had denied myself the opportunity to serve and be with people like me, that needed people like me in church, based on a very human mistake that he made. And I think he really thought he was doing me a favor and doing the right thing. And that once again, I was not going to relinquish control of my life or let anybody get in between me and my Savior, period. Because they're just as human as I am. I'm nobody, they're nobody. We're all just servants. And we're all just on our own path, trying to avoid the great and spacious building. So I guess I just want to leave with you that if you have a faith, I don't care what faith it is, or especially if you're a member of my church, if you think things aren't exactly the way they need to be, you need to be there. We need to hear from you. Everything that I talked to that little task force about, they made changes. See? I wanted to change things for women and children in the world. That was the first time where I felt like, oh, maybe I could help somebody else. Just set your trajectory for what you want to do with your life, and don't let the world stop you. If you want to serve the Lord, serve the Lord. If you want to be in a place where you're supported by your faith, go. Just go. Find someone like me and sit with her. She desperately needs you. So thanks for being here, and go out and be kind.